waits, and Thompson scores!
Massaba's in the middle. Wednesday here could seal it. Gassman finds Masaba.
Now Bannon with a great ball in. Here's an opportunity. Palmer scores! Liam Palmer has scored for Sheffield Wednesday.
Hello and welcome to the Wednesday Till I Die podcast. This is your weekly dose of therapy. Last week we did part one. This time it's part two. That is part two of the Sheffield Wednesday 24-25 Sky Bet Championship season review. It's a bit of a mouthful. Brought to you in association with whatthefockinghellwasthat.com. First of all, there'll be no commentary from the games. So apologies if that's what you was looking for. We did get a bit of a, hand slapped, let's say, last week for that, and all shit went off. So in theory, getting the same treatment. We're just going to steer clear of that. So, and to be honest, it's a lot easier as well. And as well, other than the Windass screamer from his own half, not much else really to write home about really in that second half of the season. Mainly goals in our net as opposed to goals being scored. Maybe that's been a bit harsh. We did score quite a few. That's probably the only thing that we did all right this season, to be fair. Anyway, it's not just myself. I've got my right-hand man with me once again this evening. Matt, how are you, mate? You all right?
Yeah, no, I'm not too bad, James. I'm not too bad. Yeah, as I was saying to you just before I came on, I've been a bit actual graph this week, not teaching, like actual graph this weekend in terms of helping a mate out working a beer and street food festival. Tough day yesterday. On your feet all day, like, oh god, hard work.
You sent a picture yesterday, Matt. Was the bucket hat mandatory?
Yeah, bucket hat was mandatory to make yourself look edgy and hipster like all the other street food vendors there. It was also to cover the fact that I was feeling horrific on Friday in terms of like really, really rough. And then woke up on Saturday and got a call from my mate. I was really, really hoping that I wasn't going to get a phone call. It was, can you help out? I was like, yeah, I can. Like, not a problem. Yeah, not what was needed. When you. To
be fair, it is tough knocking that golf ball around that golf course, isn't it, Matt?
It is, yeah. It is hard life, mate. Finishes at 3:00 finishes and then out onto a golf course. It does take its toll, mate. But never fear not, everybody. Half term next week, so week off.
Matt, are you thrilled to talk about such a wonderful second half of the season that we had? I mean, much contrasting to the first half, anyway.
Yeah, I am actually, because I think this second half of the season is every single thing that epitomizes Sheffield Wednesday at this point in time, in kind of like where we are now. Like often when we kind of come to the end of a season and you sit there and you think, do you know what? That wasn't too bad. Or like when we missed out with Sunderland, it was like, do you know what? I feel really positive going into next season. No matter how difficult that defeat was, actually, I feel really, really positive going into the next season. Actually, it's probably papering over some of the cracks there. This is stark reality of where the football club is, both on and off the pitch in this second half of the season. And it's a necessary painful what's kind of happened over the last 6 months or 5-6 months or so, to bring and unite a fan base together behind kind of like a view surrounding the ownership, both online and also in person, because the two are very, very different. And it's also brought into a sharp focus, actually, the expectations of what us as fans should have from the football team on the pitch as well, because we did see it crumble away and kind of disintegrate beneath our feet when, I think, again, it is important to stress right at the top of this was not a good championship this year. It really wasn't. It really wasn't a fantastic championship. There was 4 outstanding teams in the division, and then everybody else down from 5th all the way down to 14th, including ourselves, obviously really had a chance at some, you were just leaving yourself as late as you could, really.
The fact that Blackburn was in the playoffs on the final day, I know obviously they didn't finish there, but the fact that they actually was in the top 6 says all you need to know really about how this season was. Here's a question for people in the chat that's watching live, whether that's YouTube or on X. When was the last time that we, as a club, we were pretty dull? Because there's been something happening constantly, whether that's points deductions, relegations, playoffs, promotions, relegation scraps. Like, when was the last time that nothing really was happening? Because I think you've got to go back quite a while. Even sacking managers leaving. There's constantly something happening, isn't there, at Sheffield Wednesday? I see people already watching live. SWFC says, "Hey up, buddy." Barry's here. We've got For Real Gameplay. He says, "Please, please, please, can this American rumours be true?" Danny's watching as well. So is Matt. Tony said when we were called the Wednesday. You're probably right there, mate. You're probably right. Johnny said Brian Law's 09-10. Yeah. I mean, this is the point, isn't it? We're talking 15 years ago there.
It is. Sorry, James, just to cut you. It is the most entertaining and exciting mid-table finish that I think that any club in the Championship has had, and it's for nothing that's going on the pitch, really. Yeah,
I'm not sure. Entertaining is quite the word.
Do you know what, James? It has been. I mean, we mentioned this that's part of the first half of the season when we did the part 1 review last week. It's been really entertaining to watch on the pitch. It's been frustrating. It's been a real emotional roller coaster. But boy, on the pitch, that side have given us so much entertainment. I know we're going to come on to it. And spoilers, obviously, we did beat Borough 2-1 in the last home game of the season, everybody. Sorry, spoilers for any of you who haven't caught up yet. That typified it. Because up until the 94th minute when Middlesbrough hit the bar, and you're thinking for all the world it's going to go in, you were on the edge of your seat watching this side all year, pretty much.
Put it this way, I learned what an NDA was, and I've also never studied minutes of a meeting as thoroughly as I have during this past 4 or 5 months. That's so every day is a school day, as they say. I mean, in terms of this second half of the season, just to give you some numbers, if you just take that in isolation, so we're talking from the Preston game, which was what, in between Christmas and New Year, right up until the end of the season, we finished 20th in that period.
Yeah.
Only Preston, Luton, Derby and Watford, the only sides with a worse record than us. 25 points we picked up from a possible 69, just over a point a game, which is really poor. 6 wins, 7 draws, 10 defeats. 29 goals scored, was kind of middle of the road, compared to others, but 36 goals conceded. Only Plymouth conceded more goals than us in that period of time with 39. We also, it comes to no shock to anyone, that we had the worst home record as well. At that point. I think that was the whole season, weren't it? 2 wins and just 10 points. And that must have been that second half of the season.
Yeah, the second half of the season was 2 wins. Yeah, we picked up 3 in the first half of the season.
Yeah, it's just really, really poor, to be honest. Let's get straight into it. I see the chat's obviously talking about this £100 million bid from some American consortium. We are going to be talking about that on Extra Time. I thought, let's just do the season review. It's quite a big one. We always do it over 2 parts. We'll do that 2 weeks after the season's finished. Nothing's really going to be spoken about.
Everyone's on holiday. Nothing will happen.
I literally could have filled 10 podcasts. We even had to do an emergency podcast in the week to talk about the retained list. So if you've not watched that one or listened to it, don't go just yet. Wait until we've finished, and you can perhaps listen to that one tomorrow. We're going to be talking about the bid on Extra Time. So patreon.com/WTID pod if you want to watch that one. Preston North End. For those that didn't watch the last one, we will skip a few games out, but we have picked on quite a few to talk about. We'll talk about the first one in this period. Preston North End, we lost 3-1. For me, I just saw this as a massive opportunity missed. Preston North End, yes, it is away from home, but it's a fixture that we've just been, come off the 3-3 draw with Middlesbrough, where we'd come from behind. I thought we could probably take a bit of positivity into this game. We got on level terms with a great strike by Windass, a goal that I've forgotten about up until doing these notes. I felt we just threw it away. The game ended. I was just annoyed and frustrated that we'd not really taken much more from that game, and and actually put the pressure on. As always with us, it was almost like the season before when we could have got out of the bottom three and we just fluffed his lines a little bit. Felt like this the same with this game.
Yeah, we went in obviously 1-0 down at half time. And in the first half, we were thoroughly dominant in terms of possession. He played a 3 in midfield with Nathaniel Chalobah at the base of it, and we just retained the ball. We were really, really good. And obviously found ourselves 1-0 down because Preston had one opportunity and took it. I thought for that first half we were good. Danny changed it at half time. That did open the game up a little bit more, and obviously we got back into it with, as you rightly say, a wonderful Josh Windass strike. Kind of lets the ball roll across his body and bends it into the bottom corner. It was a wonderful strike. We didn't do enough to win the game. I think that is really, really, it's a hard pill to swallow, but we did not do enough to win the game, because when we got the equaliser, we just took our foot off the gas, really, and let Preston back into it. I think was there a penalty decision here, which was the Dominic Iorfa tackle just outside the box, which, again, I'm not going to pretend at the other end of the stadium you could see anything. When you watch it back on replays, I think if you go back and watch it now, it's outside the box. Yeah.
And that's literally 5 minutes after we've gone on level terms as well. So it's just that momentum. We didn't have a chance to do that because, like I said, that bit of a silly challenge.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is important to remember as well, because I think everybody who was in the away end that day was, and obviously watching at home, was very well aware that we weren't at us best in that 90 minutes. But because over the course of the first half of the season, as we spoke about last week, James, this squad had given us so much hope and belief of being able to get back into games and just turn it round. Just, like have a 10-minute period in a game where you just flip it completely on its head and the whole kind of dynamic and the outlook of the game shifts. We just weren't able to do that. And there was quite a lot of people who walked out. There was a group of lads who were behind me who were, they were great value all game. But as they were walking out, they just said, oh, well, we can't do it every week. Which I think at that point in time, genuinely, that was the firm belief amongst Wednesday fans, was like, do you know what? It's going to catch up with you sooner or later. Important to stress in this game, there was a lot of players looking very leggy and very ropey. Marvin Johnson got absolute pelters from the away end in this game, and he was very obviously playing with an injury. I think Dominic Iorfa also went kind of like in the first half, there was a ball that was played over the top, and he went in a foot race with the centre forward. Can't remember his name, and he pulled up.
Emil Rees,
that was it. Emil Rees, and the ball went out, and it was aimless, but he pulled up in front of the away end. It was early on in the first half, and was grabbing the back of his hamstring, and you're thinking, oh, that doesn't look good. He was very clearly and very obviously struggling. We saw an early sighting of Charlie McNeil in this. It was.
David Attenborough was out with the binoculars, like, oh well, who's that over there?
And he looked. He looked all right for 20 minutes. He probably looked like he did when he got on in towards the end of the season. Yeah. We didn't do enough to win the game. Preston, I think the scoreline flattered them. I'll be honest with you. I think 3-1 was a very heavy scoreline for a Preston side who, on the day and as it panned out over the course of the season, were not a good side. Yeah,
we were missing Deshaun Bernard as well because he was serving. It's a 3-match suspension that he got for his second red card of the season that he picked up against Stoke. I want to say the terrible two yellow cards that he picked up there. And you said there, we Dom Iorfa. But it's all right though, because the January window's coming up at this point. We're not too far away from January. We can sign some players. We can perhaps bring in some defenders, centre backs to strengthen the squad. So it's all right, isn't it? At this point, we're not panicking.
Everybody, I think, around this period of time was well aware of what we needed going into that window, and it was a centre half and a striker. And that
everyone
was
apart from one person, I think.
Yeah, everyone apart from manager, recruitment team, and owner. Anybody who actually matters were the only people who didn't seem to be having the conversations at this point. But again, of course, remember, hadn't played out in public yet. That was a couple of weeks away.
It's coming. Next game week 25, New Year's Day, Derby County. Did anything happen in this game of note, Matt?
Jenny Kusama scored a lesser talked about goal that is an absolute belter. To be fair,
Matt, do you know what? There's six goals in this game. I can't tell you what the other 5 were. Genuinely can't tell you what they were. It's just been blanked out of my mind.
Just before, I know, because we are gonna wax lyrical for a little while on the Josh Windass goal here. The Jenny Gassama one was a goal that Sheffield Wednesday don't historically score. A winger who's 5 yards behind the centre half flicks it over his head with like a back heel, and then just leaves him for dead. Absolutely leaves him for dead. And at this point in time, this little stretch of games here, Derby, Leeds, QPR, Luton, West Brom as well, Jenny Gassama had his best form for us. Like he was in sparkling and sensational form around this time period. And, you know, we've talked about him in glowing terms on this pod a lot of the time, a lot of the season. This was an exceptional game from him, and it was an exceptional finish, and it felt like a little bit of a coming of age kind of like period for him, where he really stamped his authority on it. But yeah, Josh Windass also scored a goal.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched it far too many times.
Yeah.
I thought I'd watched the Smith goal against Portsmouth too many times, but this one, I mean, to be there for it as well. It's such a weird goal. I can remember him picking it up pretty much nearly like level to where I'm sat on the north stand, obviously on the far side, and then he picks it up, runs with it, hits it, and you're thinking, no, not from there, Josh. Do you know what I mean? Like, and then as you see watching the ball in the air, you're thinking, fucking hell, keeper's miles out.
Yeah.
Wait, it's going in that. And it's like almost in slow motion as well. And the fact, the technique on it is fantastic, because I know there was another podcast that was kind of saying, you see that every week. And you're like, are you mad? Like, and he said, he could do it as well. It's not that difficult thing to do. Try it. These people that go on at half time to try and score from the halfway line. I know, they're not footballers and what have you, not got the studs on and stuff like that, but they can't even get the ball airborne. The fact that where he hit it from, and also the ball it's not coming towards you. The ball is travelling away from you. He's running with the ball when he hits it, and to fly and not even bounce. The keeper's got absolutely zero chance. Tony says, how the F did that not get goal of the season? I saw the goal of the season. It's not worthy of it whatsoever.
No, I agree. As I said at the time, I think, James, when that award came up, I preferred the Oxford goal to Josh Windass's just for the technique of it. But again, I'm aware. I understand what the point that was being made by the other podcast that talked about it, and obviously that picked up a lot of traction. I understood the point of it in terms of he's just hit it. But as you said, go and try it, because actually to get it right in a pressurized situation of a game, because it wasn't like we were running away with the game. We were clearly the better side in the game, but it wasn't like the game was dead and buried. We've got like I think it was a 1-goal lead at that point, was it? It's an exceptional strike. And there is arguably, I know Bannon is technically a very gifted player. Arguably the only player on the pitch for us that day is Josh Windass, who could actually do that. That is those moments and flashes of brilliance that we've been talking about for this entire, season one, and then obviously part one of the season review, and then all of this season. It's those flashes of brilliance that you see from Josh Windass, which this season, credit to him, have been much more frequent than previous years. The problem that I think, obviously, we're going to come on to talk about this, is he goes on a massive barren run after this goal.
He does,
were he even able to keep up a 1-in-3 record? Not like a goal a game, because obviously he scored at Preston. He'd scored obviously the game before that. This was a 5-game stretch, was it?
He scored against Oxford in a 3-1 win. He scored against Stoke when we beat him 2-0. Scored at Borough when we drew 3-3. He scored against Preston, that goal we just mentioned. And in this one, he did get an assist in the next game against Millwall. Then we have to wait. Swansea was his next assist. His next goal comes in March.
Norwich, wasn't it? Yeah,
it was. Yeah. So we're talking a long. You mentioned there 3 months and a week until he scores next.
Yeah, I've just highlighted this comment from Ted. How are you, Ted? I hope you're having a good evening, mate. I remember John Joe Shelvey nearly doing it at Hillsborough for Newcastle a few years ago. I think he hit the bar with it. It was a very, very similar strike. The only difference, I think, between the two and why I would argue that Josh Windass's was better than that John Joe Shelvey one, for the obvious reason of it went in. But John Joe Shelvey's one it felt like it had a lot more height and was actually slowing down as it comes towards the goal. The Josh Windass one is hit and stays hit the entire way through. As you say, the keeper is a long way off his line. And what I'd be really interesting to hear is actually Josh Windass's, what he saw, like the picture in front of him of like looking up and thinking, fuck it, I'm doing it.
Yeah, like at what point did he know the keeper was that far off? Yeah. I can't remember whether we were doing it all game. Do you know what I mean? No, whether that's like something you've clocked in like the first couple of minutes, you're thinking that keeper is quite way off here. If this just lands to me, I'm going to fucking hit it. Or whether it would just literally, as you said, he's looked up and he's seen him and he's gone for it. Because, I mean, as a goalkeeper, it must be one of the most embarrassing things. I mean, I don't know, actually. Getting lobbed from maybe the edge of the box maybe is quite embarrassing, but to be done from the halfway line, it's almost shouldn't happen, should it, really? And that's the other thing as well. Normally, a keeper would have enough time. How many times do you see it where they just jog back and just pick the ball up? Yeah. But he was running back and he just had to give up, didn't he, in the end?
Yeah. And it was, again, it's on the full. It doesn't bounce before it hits the back of the net. It's a wonderful strike. It really, really is. It's another one to add to his collection of fantastic Sheffield Wednesday strikes. As we know, we've obviously exercised a year on his deal, and we're holding him hostage. But I would really hope over the next year that he continues to add to that and have those moments. Because again, for a player who does get battered from pillar to post, and I'll hold my hands up and say that there are times in games, and there are games over this run that we're going to talk about where he's missed an awful lot of chances. For my money, we don't have anybody in the squad who is capable of producing a moment like that out of absolutely nothing. Like, it genuinely out of absolutely nothing. The technique on it is absolutely sublime.
Yeah. Let's move on. We'll skip over the 2-2 draw at home to Millwall. We should have won that one. Gabe Otabeyo got his first goal, ran away like someone who's never scored a goal before and didn't really know what to do. But don't blame him, to be fair, because I would have done exactly the same. But then we go to Elland Road, obviously a big game. I picked this game out because, as we can probably say for many of the others this season, I don't think it were a 3-0 game at all. I think Beadle's a bit unlucky with the first goal in the opening few minutes, and then the second and third come quite late on when they just put the game to bed. I think we had chances to get back in the game, and at half time I wasn't too disappointed, really. I was disappointed the fact that we were losing, but I thought that we were, like I said, I thought we were still in it. Obviously, it's just another one of those that has gone the wrong way for us, really. And it was away from home where we actually been quite decent this season. Well, certainly a lot better than we have been at Hillsborough anyway.
Yeah, no, I agree. Just before Leeds score, obviously there's the Ike Ugbo chance where it flashes past his face. Where when it was slowed down to like Sky slowed it down to with like in an inch of like the ball's barely moving, and everyone's going, "Oh, that's a fucking appalling miss."
Yes, it looked like he moved out of way, didn't he? To be fair,
yeah. And the game before, obviously, he'd skied the penalty against Millwall, and he was going through a really, really tough period of time here. And I know, obviously, it's continuing. But yeah, this and the Burnley game really brought into sharp focus where and how far away we were from those top two sides in terms of what we were capable over the course of this season was giving any team in this division a competitive game and a scare. Because if you remember after this game, Leeds fans were coming out and going, that is the first time probably all season since Portsmouth a team's actually coming out to go at us and not just sat on, a line of 10 players on the edge of the box and going, go on, then break us down. We actually did try and play football. We were competitive. We were strong in the tackle. We did have limited chances, but we did have chances. Just didn't take them. And again, if that one comes off an Ike Ugbo dreadlock, which he'd shaved by this point, the game shifts at 1-1. again, that have probably backed us to see it out. I think this, for me, was where it was highlighted just how far we are away from those teams at the top of the division, because it was the subs for Leeds that changed the game. I think it was they brought on Ramazani and Willie Nonto. Ramazani obviously got the goal to make it 2-0, and we just couldn't live with the movement of the players that they were bringing on. I think it was at this point, apologies to Callum Patterson. I know we've offered him a new deal, and I do hope he stays, obviously, based off the conversation we were having on Thursday night. They brought on Ramazani and Willie Nonto. I think they brought on Bamford late as well. We bought on Callum Patterson. And you're kind of looking at it there and just going, that is the stark reminder of just how far away we are from those top teams. And there's no discredit here. Leeds are a better side and were a better side. And as painful as it is, deserving champions of this division. But for 87 minutes, there wasn't an awful lot between the two teams at all.
That's the thing as well, to be in it. We're only 1-0 down right up until the end. You're always thinking, whilst, they're having more possession, they weren't doing a great deal with it. I was just looking at in terms of shots. All right, it looks like it's all one-way traffic, 16 to our 6. Yeah. Look at shots on target. We've had 3, they've had 5. 3 of their 5 have gone in. None of our 3 did go in. Yeah. So that is just the difference. They have just taken their chances when they've been presented to them. I think the first goal you see as well, really well taken. I know there's no keeper to beat, but just does gives it the eyes, and I think it's 2 players on the line. I think, and he puts it straight past him. Looks really, really easy and comfortable. It was just a little bit annoying the fact that we're going into this game. We've beaten Derby County at home, fairly convincingly. All right, we should have beaten Millwall, but then going to this one big game, you're thinking, let's just get to 20 minutes, 25 minutes, 0-0, and let's see what happens. 3 minutes in, you're 1-0 down. At that point, I was thinking, it did actually get better. We did play better than what I thought we would. We didn't certainly crumble. But yeah, obviously we're still in January at this point. We'd had the fans forum. The fans forum was in the week prior to this game. So this was the first one after the whole meltdown. It was also the game where Chansiri had that huge floodlight coming out of his Range Rover. I think you can, if you can remember that one. That photo got about 1 million views or something. I couldn't really believe
outstanding
it.
Photo. Outstanding photo.
Didn't see it at the time. I totally didn't see it, but
it's a belter coming out of his sunroof. This was the first game that the chairman had attended in person for a long while. And there was a lot of public pressure onto him because of obviously the comments that were made at the fans forum. Just some highlights, obviously, sell your house. Are you a business owner? No, Shay Charles. No, there's no plan. You don't need to know that. Don't worry about it. It's fine. I have money. I will comply with the EFL regulators' rules. How? Don't worry. We'll comply.
So this was also the first game since Shay Charles was leaving as well, weren't it? Because obviously he was at this point he had been recalled, but we could keep him until the end of the window, I think.
It was the end of the week, wasn't it? We had up until the Bristol City game, so we were given a 7-day window. That was where he went out for a fag break just after saying that Shay Charles wasn't going anywhere earlier on in the evening. And then
just after Rob Stated had tweeted to say that he was staying as well.
Yeah. And then finished obviously on that bombshell. I think obviously when we talk about the protests, and I know people feel particularly strong about the 1867-led protests, one thing that you can't level at the lads who were involved in that, you cannot say that they don't care about this football club. You cannot say that they weren't acting on what they felt at the time was the best interests of the club. Little, I think, did anybody know that when they were distributing those yellow posters outside Ellen Road, the impact that it would have had on the chairman that day, because reportedly the chairman was absolutely fuming and was storming the corridors of Ellen Road, seeking the approval of how bad and how naughty those fans were in not behaving themselves. Strap in, Dejpon, it gets a lot worse for you from here. But it was live national coverage as well, because it was the first game back on ITV as well, since ITV had bought the rights mid-season. It was. I know we're lingering over this game, James, but obviously this was a real turning point in sort of it as well, because the game before, if you remember at Millwall, had been the first one where James Beadle had made like an error. If he'd do you remember he'd sewn his hands on at the near post and it had flown in?
Yeah.
And then the Leeds third goal, there were people who were criticising Beadle for the third goal from Leeds from the corner, when actually it's people not tracking their runners. Spoilers, same happens at West Brom. And people were starting to lose a little bit of faith in that as well. It was the first time for a while it felt that this was a really, really tumultuous situation where everything had got big sort of storm clouds gathering and the first kind of drops of rain sort of starting to fall on the season, really.
Yeah, I agree. I just need to read some of your comments out, because it looks like we're having some decent discussion over who scored the best goal from the halfway line. Personally, this is, by the way. Dave says, I've scored from halfway a long time ago. To be fair, it was on a smaller pitch, but I did catch the keeper off his line and just hit it. It's not easy to hit so sweet. Rain, uneven ground, never repeated. And then we've got one from For Real Gameplay. Well, if we're going for it, I've scored from a goal kick when I was in my late teens and the ball came my way from a corner where the keeper got caught between his edge of the box and the halfway line. So yeah, and anyone else?
Have you ever scored? I mean, I've scored from the halfway line, James. But have you ever scored from the halfway line?
No, as a defender, I didn't really venture that far forward. So yeah, do you know what? I played up until when I was a junior. I played up until we went to 11-a-side. And then, I took up golf, actually, to give you...
Yeah.
So
I wish I'd have done that. Maybe
I did actually... I can remember, I did actually... My mate were like, we need someone to play with short. Can you do a job? And I must have been, I don't know, 15, 16 maybe, like year 10, 11. And I said, where do you play? Oh, centre-back. All right, can you go up front? Oh, I go on then. I scored a goal in that game as well, and I can't remember. I was just slagging off Otto Bayo for his celebration. I've no idea what mine was. It wasn't a Jurgen Klinsmann anyway. It was too dry for that. Didn't make that mistake. Anyway, we digress. Let's get back on track. Before we do go any further, though, Matt, obviously at said fans forum, this is also where we find out that there has been legitimate interest in Danny Röhl by Southampton as well. This is when Deshpon comes out and tells us this. Now, obviously the form does drop off like a cliff in the second half of the season. A lot of people, saying that he's not arsed and stuff. Did you expect at this point, when we just find this out, did you expect the stuff with Danny in Southampton to have as big an effect as it kind of seemingly had on the season?
I'm not sure I think it's a factor. I don't think it's the main one. I think the main one is the fact that we didn't recruit a centre half and a striker. That is the main one. But is that down to the fact that, because obviously this happens, this is when Russell Martin gets sacked, which is before Christmas. Yeah, I don't think it's down to the manager. I think that's down to the owner not having any money to be able to go out and recruit them. Nicest will in the world. Yes, do I think that this has helped in terms of, do I think that Danny perhaps subconsciously took his eye off the ball when he's realised there's interest from elsewhere? Yeah. Do I think that something's probably happened before this in December when he's asked about targets and a budget and he's been told there isn't one? Yeah, I probably think that that's a fair comment as well. Do I think that has got some lingering feelings from the summer where we needed a centre half on deadline day in August and didn't get one? Yeah, I think that's there as well. I think, yes, this Danny in interest from Southampton might be the straw that broke the camel's back to being up to here. The chairman went out and the recruitment team went out and signed a centre midfielder, a winger, a left back, and who was the other one as well? Who came? We
re-signed Shea Charles as well, which some people are using as another signing, which I'm not having that at all.
Signing a player that we'd already got, sound. We didn't recruit effectively in the right areas. And for my money, I'm not going to change my tune, James. That's not on the manager. That is on a club structure. It just so happens that at Sheffield Wednesday, the manager is so integral to that because we don't have all of the other structure that any well-run football club has. Do I think that it's a contributing factor, this Danny to Southampton stuff? Yes, of course I do.
Yeah.
Do I think that this manager for everything that's gone on since here and for all the quotes in recent weeks and all the rest of it, do I think that this manager was any less invested during those 90 minutes, or was it any less thorough in his prep at this point in the season? Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
One thing I would say at this point, once we found this out, I think, not me personally, but I think there was a bit of a chink in the fandom, in terms of it could do no wrong up until this point. I think he does use that to his advantage in how highly regarded he is by the fans. He kept us up the season prior. They're playing some great football, and people's talking about him. Obviously, he was on telly for the Euros in the previous summer. When was the last time that happened? All this stuff was happening, and he, like I said, he could do no wrong. It was at this point where I started to see some people, especially on the socials, not really, starting to come out with some stuff. Oh, he's not the person that we, that we thought we had, and all that sort of stuff starting to come out. Anyway, let's get back on track with some of the games. A 2-2 draw with Bristol City at home. We slipped down to really poor game. We slipped down to 11th after that one. We were 1-0 up early on, then it's 1-1, then we got 2-1 up straight after that, and we concede a fairly late goal. But we do. Like I said, we slipped down to 11th. I want to talk about the next one. I feel like it is just going to be me talking about this one though. QPR away at Loftus Road, 2-0 win. What can you tell me about that game, Matt?
The outside of the stadium looks really, really battered and tatty, and the stewards, not all of them, are knobs. But aside from that, mate, really nice day out in London. Well worth the money invested.
Yes, that day was pretty. It wasn't funny from your perspective, but it was a strange one. When you messaged me saying I'm not even in yet, and I'm like, fucking half an hour in. What you playing at? But obviously at this point, January transfer window is still open. We could still sign players. Shock, because I don't know if we had signed anyone by this point at all. We certainly hadn't signed a defender. We certainly hadn't signed a striker as well. But I suppose who cares when you've got likes of Callum Patterson and Michael Smith to step up and win you the game. And that Michael Smith header, and obviously I know you've watched it back. A fantastic header, the way that he kind of gets his neck in that sort of position to kind of help it on its way. Fantastic goal, and a much needed win, I suppose, at that point of the season, because we were, like I mentioned, the defeat to Leeds, we'd drawn to Millwall prior, then we drew to Bristol City. It was almost like we're. The games against Millwall and Bristol City, I know where they finished, but you kind of expected a little bit more from them, to be fair. So it was good to get back to winning ways.
QPR were on fire at this point as well, around us in the table. I know, again, as the season's panned out, it's not gone the way that they'd have hoped at this point, but it was two teams who were very, very similar, both up-and-coming managers who were both highly rated. QPR had beat us to the signing of, who was the centre-half who went to them right at the start of the window, ex-Peterborough. He was on loan from Southampton. Can't remember who it was. Yeah. You know what I mean, don't you? This, I think, was our most complete away performance all season, personally. I think this typified everything that was good about Sheffield Wednesday away from home this season. Very, very solid in the first half. Nothing too expansive and keeping QPR firmly at arm's length. Second half, put your foot on the gas and run away from it as the game opens up and take your chances. Great header from Michael Smith, the Callum Patterson, Ronnie Edwards. Thank you, Daniel. Otherwise, I'd have been thinking for a while. That's for the centre half who signed for QPR. The Callum Patterson one, balls fed through to him, chops back inside, wrong foot, bends it in the bottom corner. I just think this was the away performance of the season, this, in terms of it was the most complete 90 minutes that we saw from Sheffield Wednesday away from home in terms of the way in which that we were successful.
I want to say as well, at this point, Pato had been told he wasn't going to play much part in the season, or he'd been told a few weeks prior. So, I can remember him in his post-match press conference saying how, it looked a bit annoyed or a bit, kind of like grinning a little bit, because what he was saying, he's not going to get many chances, but he feels like he's taken that, but he almost kind of knew he wasn't really going to get many more either, if you know what I mean, even though he had scored and had a decent game. But I suppose testament to Pato, really, how he's applied himself. And I suppose, well, obviously we've only offered him a contract. Obviously at this point we don't know that. We've only offered him a contract. I know he does want to kind of play more regular football and stuff. So we'll see whether he does actually stay or not. Another game that we should have won, Luton Town at home. I can't believe that we didn't take any. Well, we took 1 point from a side that got relegated. And again, it's not one of those where I suppose at this point they are down there, and we do realise that they are struggling. Obviously, when we played them first time around, we thought it was a bit of a blip. But we had so many chances to win the game. Smith equalises with a rare penalty. Yeah. But for me, we should have put that game to bed way before. We had so many chances to do that and just didn't take them at all.
It was very similar. I felt this game was very similar to the Millwall one in terms of we again, as we've said it all season, James, and we definitely said it a lot last week. Great in both boxes, absolutely exceptional in both boxes. But on the day, we came up against, again, for my money, I know they've gone down, the two best centre-half performances that I've seen at Hillsborough this season, from Mads Anderson and Mark McGuinness, and Kaminsky, who was great on the day as well and made multiple saves. Should we have won it? Yes, of course we should. The run from Jedi Gassama for the penalty, which started in Barnsley and then ended up with one of the worst shots I've ever seen. We couldn't break them down. Could not break them down.
I felt like we were way on top, and then we get the goal, and then we just kind of took us foot off the gas again and kind of let them back in the game. And and as much as we should have won, I think when we were on top, we had multiple chances, but I felt like it was almost like they were on top early doors and scored. And then it was all us. We scored, and then we're like, "Oh, go on, then you have a go. You have a go now." Like, it didn't really capitalise on the fact that momentum, and I don't think we do that as a team. Just thinking back now, I don't think when we do score, we don't then go for another one. I don't know whether that's kind of a subconscious thing or not.
I don't know, James. I'll flip the question round back on you then and say, do we have a squad that's capable of doing that against sides week in, week out in this division? Are we capable of doing it in little pockets? Yes, I think we are. Are we capable of being that squad that does this week in, week out? I'm not sure, because usually, as we saw over the course of this season, we finish games really well. We'd start games, first 10 minutes, we'd start like house on fire, and then it'd all kind of peter out and the opposition would wrestle some control back over that. And then towards the end of the first half, we'd sort of find our feet. We were saying it up until this point in the season that Sheffield Wednesday were a second half team. We'd go in, Danny and the coaching staff would get themselves in, kind of figured out what was going to do. And as long as, unlike Watford, where they completely changed the system and it completely threw us, and before we knew it, we were already 6-1 down or whatever it was, we usually were able to figure it out, but it was in pockets and it was in spells. Whereas at this point in time, this to me was again another example of that sharp focus of you had to go out and recruit effectively to get a forward, because chances were falling to forward players.
Yeah.
Just not taking them time after time, or not taking them enough, because we did, as you rightly said, James, we scored, and we scored a lot over the course of the season. The defence was obviously the big issue, centre-half main issue, but also up front, if you could have got two in this game, you win the game, because Luton had, I think on the day, 6 debutants who they'd gone out and obviously invested heavily in that January window. It was still a new manager at the time. It was a bit of a mess, and kind of speaking to a Luton fan for their preview show, they were saying, look, if we can come out of here with, only conceding 1 and say it's a 1-0 loss, fine by us, as long as we bed those new players in. We just didn't do enough to win the game again in terms of in terms of taking those chances that we created. Did we create enough chances to win the game? Yes. Did we do enough to actually go and nick it? I know it's a really roundabout way of saying you've just got to be better up front. I think if we'd have been better up front through this little run, the next game that we're going to talk about, West Brom, the game after that against Coventry, we should have been out of sight before these sides got back into the game.
Yeah, I think this is also the first game that we see Stuart Armstrong as well, I want to say. Or had we seen him before that? I know he came on off the bench against...
no, this was...
against
Yeah,
them,
you're
so-
right, James. This was his first game because he then started the week after against West Brom because Bannon was out of the squad with all those rumours surrounding that hairline fracture to his knee and he's going to be missing for weeks on end and blah, blah, blah.
What it actually was his hairline, I think, that needed a bit of attention because he was back when maybe that was a miscommunication between the captain and the gaffer. So they rushed out to sign Stuart Armstrong, and what he meant was he was just having his hair done. But anyway, West Brom next. Oh my! Like this game. This is the one where Gassama scores. A fantastic goal, and then it gets choked off.
It's offside.
He's offside. And we also score a goal in injury time because again we're on top in this game. We're absolutely hammering him. Certainly in that second half, Pato scores, and you're thinking, right, can we win this one now? No, we concede a goal even later, again from a corner, and you just kind of once that goal went in, you just knew this season just wasn't really going to be our season. I think.
Near but not quite there. On the day, Adam Armstrong scored a wonderful goal. West Brom were by far the better side in the first half. West Brom battered us. Couldn't get.
I don't think we
in
even
that
took.
first
Yeah,
half.
yeah, we didn't. We were like shadows, weren't it? In that first half, it was really, really poor. But I suppose another theme of the season, like a one-half performance. In this case, it came in the second half, as most did this season.
Yeah, it was. I mean. The Adam Armstrong goal was really well taken. Ball's behind him, about hip height, just steers it into the far corner. Looks like it's going to be one of those days. And then Jedi Gassama went on a run from the edge of from his halfway line. And do you remember he snakes across the pitch and runs past everybody? I think the ball ended up deflected and it goes out for a corner. It was the first sign of life, and that was about 60 minutes into the game.
Yeah.
And then when we realised, oh my God, they can't work out how to contain him when he was in possession, we just kept feeding him the ball for about a 15-minute spell. And it was only when they made a system change and a real adjustment to it, where they were doubling up on him any time that he got the ball, no matter where he was on the pitch, that actually that kind of outlet again sort of stopped. Ike Ugbo came on, made a huge difference in this game. Should have scored again, shock. But Ike Ugbo came on, put himself about. I think this was the perfect amount of time for him to be on the pitch. I think he was only on for about 12 minutes, but he did enough in that 12 minutes because he was a very, very different proposition to Michael Smith, who played up there in the first half, who got absolutely no joy, no service. Second half, we also made that system and adjustment change to press them further up the pitch because obviously we'd lost Deshaun Bernard at centre half in this game.
Yes.
And the equaliser, if you can't remember it, go back and watch it. How Callum Patterson doesn't score with the first one, I'll never know. It's an outstanding defensive block on the line. And then he obviously barrels the second one in. And then we take the worst throwing award of the season goes to Svante Ingolson here. We're on the edge of their box, lining it up, and he just throws the ball 10 foot. It doesn't even slip out of his hand. Like he just throws it and it just dies like an paper airplane.
Yeah.
They run straight up the other end.
I think you were throwing a shuttlecock, I think.
It's terrible. And then I think Max Lowe gets the ball. It's kind of like a lofted delivery. It's useless. They run up the other end. James Beadle makes an exceptional save. Because that, for all the world, looked like it was in. I think it gets a deflection. He manages to tip it over. And you're thinking, right, catch it and we'll take a draw. Could we have won it? Yeah, but we'll take a draw. And then we don't track runners. And it's a really easy tap in at the near post. And Jason Malumbi then starts World War III at the end of the game, and it's a horrible, horrible feeling coming away from it. But again,
at least you didn't have to go very far.
That was a bonus for it, and I got in because so it's a win-win for everybody really for this one.
Daniel says he thought it was Valentin that took the throw in. Either way, Valentin Ingolson,
or Ingolson,
could be Danny Röhl. It was still a shit throw in anyway.
Terrible. Yeah. The other one here, which is well worth mentioning, because I did mention something about the horrendous nature of some of the stuff supporting the two Sheffield clubs across the city. This was the game where Sheffield Wednesday fans paid tribute to Harvey Wilgus. He was remembered, obviously, at the game. It was a really well-observed moment, a tribute to mark the passing of a young lad that has rocked the city of Sheffield and probably continues to do so for not only the families involved, but obviously his friends and family who are his friends who are still at school. It was really, really well-observed. Ball went out of play, and everybody just kind of held it. West Brom fans were also joining in with it. So I just thought that's well worth a mention, because I did talk about how horrendously the Steel City Derby was observed, some of the things there. So this was a moment where it does show that actually across both parts of the city, there is a lot of mutual respect for fan bases when this kind of thing happens.
Yeah, great to mention that one, Matt. Moving on to footballing matters, we do beat Swansea away 1-0 that's a midweek game.
Michael Smith.
I think I recall. Yeah, Michael Smith. Another one of his goals. Was that off the bench as well? Must have been.
Off the bench. Windass lays it through, and then we nearly threw this one away. It was only a linesman giving an offside decision for the 94th minute equaliser, which was touch and go.
Was this also the first time we saw Ibrahim Sissoko as well?
Looked great for 20 minutes. Should have had a penalty.
Yeah. Also let the ball go for his...
He's good at that, though.
I think that's his trick. I think that's his kind of it's new bit of techers that he's got.
Should have had a penalty in that game. Should have been 2-0 or 2-1.
Well, 2-1. This is how the next game is, which I'm going to talk about. Coventry City at home. We beat them 2-1 at their place with a late goal. They just did the same to us, but in kind of different circumstances. This goes down as the Beadle mistake game for me. I mean, how frustrated were you at the time for what happened? I know it's just a mistake and stuff, but you're like, oh, please, like, why?
In the actual moment itself, yeah, I was frustrated, but this was another one of those games where it was the culmination of a lot of things, but this was right in the midst of those sliding doors games that we've spoke about above. We were trying so hard to stay in touch, and everybody was doing the mental maths, weren't they, after every game, or like in-game scenarios at this point in the season. Everyone was doing that mental maths of, so-and-so's losing, so we're only 3 points off it. We're only 2 points. We're only 4. We were doing, as a squad, you can't dress it up. We were doing the bare minimum to stay in a playoff run at this point in time. We had chances to solidify a top 6 spot over the course of those games, including this Coventry game, and we didn't take them. That error from James Beadle in isolation summed up really kind of what was going on both on and off the field at this point in time, really dropping the ball.
Yeah, for me though as well, if you look at the centre-back pair and it's Max Lowe and Michael Ahekwa, I think I remember saying at the time, like, had you had said to me, we're in, what are we on, February, middle of Feb, day after Valentine's Day it was, if you'd have said to me in mid-Feb, we're playing with Michael Ahekwa and Max Lowe as your 2 centre-backs, I'd have said to you, what the fucking hell's happened? Do you know what I mean? Because that's Michael Ahekwa, he's 5th choice centre-back, I would say, and Max Lowe, no disrespect, but he's even further down the pecking order because he's not a centre-back. I know he's played there and he's done fantastically well there, but he wasn't brought in to play that position. So, yeah, I suppose when you look at the goal as well, could have they perhaps helped the situation a little bit? Probably. They're maybe not fully aware. I mean, I know they're not expecting him to drop the ball in the manner that he did. But yeah, it was just it's gut wrenching. I know it was only obviously for a draw, but you see it happening, you're like, oh, he's walking away. And I mean, I think this was probably the beginning of the end, weren't it, for James Beadle in a Wednesday shirt at this point?
I think this moment. Do I think that this is... Yeah, I mean, for him in a Wednesday shirt, I think this was the one where there was a lot of public criticism for him, which I understand, but there seemed to have been a lot of people who were holding up, like, a lot of pent-up anger, and they'd been annoyed that they'd been shouting into this void and behaving like James Beadle hadn't saved us a number of points over the previous, 14 months that he'd been at the club. He's a young goalkeeper who was playing in front of his 6th back line of the year and a different formation change. It's his 12th in terms of like his time at Sheffield Wednesday. And those are just random numbers that I'm picking out of the air. They could or could be right, but they sound about right in terms of how many pairings and partnerships. defending is a team effort that includes the protection that the goalkeeper gets. And I don't think that we, over this period of time, did enough to protect this young goalkeeper. Yes, the errors, including this one, because this one and the Millwall one are the two that he's made that are glaring mistakes for me. They're magnified as it's 90 plus minutes into a match. But I said it at the time, I'm not going to change my tune now. The two centre-halves, Michael Ehekwa and Max Lowe, both goal side of Ellis Sims, and they're just ball watching. They're not watching the runner. They don't track him. They don't think of the worst case scenario. And ultimately, when the worst case scenario happens, they're found wanting.
How many times do you see a striker trying to run through and the defender just blocks him off? Like nothing's happening. The ball's just rolling to the keeper. You know, he's just going to pick it up, and they block him off, and you see it all the time, and it's just part and parcel of the game. And I suppose they could have done that, but anyway, we've probably talked about that at the time.
Yeah.
But I also feel like this was the point where there was a lot of calls for Pierce Charles to come in. People were saying, just play Pierce. You know, we need to get him in. Why are we kind of developing someone else's goalkeeper when we've got him in there? I think I'm right in saying that he'd played a few times for Northern Ireland at this point as well, and done quite well, some glowing reviews and stuff. My only worry at this point in time, and whilst I wanted Pierce Charles to play, I kind of already knew he was going to perhaps play this season coming up. I didn't. My worry was, if he makes a mistake, we're just going to come down on him like a ton of bricks, like we are James Beadle. Yeah, we have to wait a few weeks for that to play out. But yeah, certainly a lot of calls for Pierce Charles here. Next game was Burnley away, 4-0. And we've already kind of touched on it briefly anyway. The Leeds game wasn't a 3-0. This wasn't a 4-0. The Armstrong miss still haunts me to this day. I feel like had that gone in, could have been a different story. I know we went in 1-0 down, but they scored just before half-time, an absolute sucker punch, really, because I don't think they were really in the game up until that point. I mean, you know, the stats might tell a different story, but I think we had far the better chances up until that goal they scored, and it was a decent goal as well, which is annoying.
Armstrong miss, Ehekwa at the post as well early on from a corner, if you remember.
Yeah.
We were the better side in the first half. Like, there's no two ways about it. We did something very different where when we were out of possession, we pressed with the front three, which nobody saw coming because we didn't do it post that and we didn't do it before that. Yeah. We had Stuart Armstrong, Josh Windass, and I think it was Michael Smith on the night, who all pressed as a front three. And actually, when it was like a two-person press, it was actually Josh Windass who dropped in and Stuart Armstrong did all the running. I thought we were really good in the first half. Again, you've got to give credit to the opposition, who are, again, a far better side than us. Second half, they did take the game away from us. Subs changed the game again. Subs changed the game again for us. We saw one of Rio Hatsusei's 2 deliveries into the box in this game where everyone went, fucking hell, we might have a player here. And I remember you saying on the pod on the weekend, James, you were going like, oh, I like him. He's always asking for the ball.
Now he's asking for a ball to take back to Japan for him.
Correct. I thought we were good in the first half. We got exposed at centre-half in this game. Michael Ehekwa for 88 minutes played really well. He had 2 lapses in concentration. Both of them cost us. Josh Windass doesn't track a runner. Gabe Otegbayo looks out of position. And that is the reason why I'm highlighting those players, because those define margins when you're playing against those top teams. When you don't have a side that's comparable, you have to have everybody switched on for the full 90-plus minutes. We didn't. Credit where it's due. The 4th goal is a rocket. If you can't remember it, go back and watch it.
Oh, yeah. Edge of box, yeah.
The 2 before that are tap-ins. They're walked in, ball down a channel, slip it across the box, unmarked centre forward 2 yards.
You mean a bit like the Armstrong chance?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But
you know, in that game, we have 11 shots to their 7. The problem is only 2 are on target out of those 11, and you're always going to struggle, aren't you, when that happens? They had 4 shots on target and scored 4 goals. This is when we keep banging on about like not having a striker and stuff, and obviously, Windass has, popped up with the goals. Yes, Smith got 8 goals, but you've got to be clinical and you've got to put your chances away. And this was, again, a game that I think 4-0, did it flatter Burnley? I don't know, because they were really good in that second half. But it could have been...
I don't think they were 4-0 better than us, James. I think there was a lot of... Did they deserve to win the game? Yeah, on the balance of 90 minutes, because it's as the old cliche goes, it's a game of two halves, and they were significantly better than any football that we'd seen over the course of the 90 minutes in that second half. 2-1 would have been a fair result on this. If we'd have come away 2-1, taken the Armstrong one, and then they'd have taken the game away from us late on, you'd have said fair enough. They were much better in the second half. Subs have changed the game. We couldn't compete. We'll move on. 4-0 felt like an absolute battering. And at this point, it felt like it doesn't just rain, it pours at Sheffield Wednesday, because there was a lot of stuff going on off the pitch as well at this point.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to skip over the next one. Sunderland did the double overs, 2-1. We lost at home to them. Mayenda scored another brace against us. I think he'd only scored one other goal in the whole of the season. Very much like the Watford lad who only scored against us all season. Then we go to Plymouth, the long journey to Mileage FC, as they are called. We are away, so we win this one. I think one of the better performances of the season. Obviously, we're in a bit of a rut at this point, because we've just lost 3 on the bounce: Coventry, Burnley, and then Sunderland. And then we go to Plymouth hoping to get a win. Obviously, that's exactly how we did it. I think Gassama had a great game. I want to say Patterson had a great game as well. Obviously, both of them scored, and I think both of them quite influential in the own goal as well that was scored by them.
Yeah, it was a really interesting delivery from Svante Ingelsson for that goal, if you remember. It's like he just lifts it over at the back stick. Jeddy Gassama's going in at the back post. Callum Patterson was a menace in this game, like an absolute menace. Again, I'm not his biggest fan in terms of footballing ability, but for this, boy, did he put himself about and won everything. Won fouls, was nasty. Because all we'd heard going into this game from Plymouth fans was, 2 centre-halves are real, grizzly hard bastards and all the rest. I know they were on a horrendous run at this point, Plymouth, but historically, we don't do well at Plymouth. Historically, it's a side where we go get our arse handed to us, and then everyone's got a 6-hour journey home, like moping about it. It was last season, wasn't it, where it was Tuesday night, pissing it down with rain, and we lost 3-0. George Byers got sent off.
That was one of Danny Reel's first games, I want to say.
Yeah, like historically, we are really, really crap at Plymouth. I know there's no love lost between Plymouth and Wednesday fans. I genuinely felt sorry for them, because it looked like a side that was going down without a fight. And I know they did put in a bit of a fight before the end of the season. We were good, but also we weren't like sparkling. This wasn't like anything like one of our better performances. The one moment of exceptional quality in the game is the Josh Windass slide rule ball to Jeddy Gassama, who finishes. This should have been 5, James, because Michael Smith misses 2 sitters. Michael Smith at the end of the game misses 2 sitters when he comes on. I would say I felt sorry for Plymouth fans. I didn't, because of how many times we've been there and got absolutely battered.
Yeah, I felt like for them, I suppose, obviously they'd beaten Liverpool. I think they'd lost to Man City as well. Like, I think they got a bit wrapped up in the FA Cup and perhaps took the eye off the ball on the league. But this was also the game where we got about 15 yellow cards in the first half. Yeah. And I was sat watching it thinking, 1-0 up here, we're going to get a red card, and it's going to finish 3-1 to Plymouth. I could sense that happening. Thankfully, it didn't. I don't think we got another yellow card in the second half. But yeah, a much needed win. And then we go to Norwich, buoyant, and we're 2-0 down at half time, Matt. Like, just thinking, what's happened here? Just, we cannot put 2 halves together, can we, really? Or we don't do it very often.
No, we haven't over the course of the season. I mean, we were so bad, in that.
I nearly turned it off. Turned it off, mate. It was that bad.
We were so bad in that first half. And then one name, Nathaniel Chalobah. Charles was running the risk of red card, and he's going to miss the Sheffield United game. And we're all so terrified anytime he went into a tackle.
We were actually more focused on that, weren't we, than
Everybody
anything
was
else?
Him.
Do we drop him? Do we drop him? Do we play him?
Ridiculous. And he got brought off at halftime, and I did feel very, very sorry. Chris Gilbert, who I was with at Norwich, he goes, I was with at Plymouth, and he goes, "You going to Norwich?" I said, "No, I can't get away from work, and obviously coming down here like on a Tuesday night, I got no chance." I was like, "You going?" He goes, "Yep, I'm going. I'm going back from Plymouth, dropping the family off, then driving back down to Norwich." I'm fucking thrilled for him, because that is a long old lot of miles to be 2-0 down at half time going, what on earth am I doing here? Nathaniel Chalobah, credit where it is due, mate. This was your performance of the season. I said in the part 1 of the season review, he was great at Middlesbrough. Svante Ingolson took a little bit of the shine off him there. This was all you. Turn the game around, battling, really good in possession, finding people, bringing others into the game and facilitating the players around him to play their natural games. Bannon, Windass, Gassama. The Josh Windass goal, the second one, is had we not seen the QPR goal, that Josh Windass goal is the worst goal of the season that I've seen. Can you remember how much pinball is going around? It's just in the air for like what felt like 2 minutes before he actually just lashes it in.
I could just sense like the Norwich fans, because we've been there, haven't we? When that's happening, that's you're 2-0 up, and they just kind of, from their perspective, they just didn't turn up in the second half whatsoever. No. Absolutely crumbled. But we, for once, we took advantage of it. Obviously, this is also the season where we get about probably 75% of our points from losing positions as well. Yeah. we seem to go behind, but we know when we win, or should I say, when we win, we've already gone behind in the game prior. And then the third goal is it Windass that's bombing down the right hand side, and then just squares it across for Gassama. And we do that in a matter of, I think it's, I'm just looking now. Michael Ehekwa scores on 64 minutes.
15-minute turnaround.
12 minutes. It's 12 minutes. Oof. Like literally bang, 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 and you're 3-2 up, and you're mental. This was also the game that at the end they had the kind of huddle after the game, like on the pitch and stuff, and I don't know what we were telling him.
Mick McCarthy, that went well.
Yeah, I have no idea what we were telling him. Right, lads, I've got an offer from Southampton, but I'm going to reject it, and I'm going to put out some podcasts after I finish, lads. But just keep playing until the end of the season, mate. It's only Sheffield United next. I think maybe it was. I think it was Bannon, weren't it? That kind of called that.
It was, and it was all to do with, because there was players who hinted at it, weren't there, in the week after. It was about the importance of the next game and putting right what happened in November. Well, Mick McCarthy, that went well.
Yeah, I mean, we go into that game, off the back of 2 wins, and well, not just like we did the one at Bramall Lane. We don't need to talk about it. It's fine. We'll just,
awful game of football again. But in this one, we had more chances to take a point. Again, the difference in quality is the separator here. That's it. It's not because they're a better footballing side. The only side who I've watched this season and been like, oh my God, they are head and shoulders above us are Leeds, who went up, Sunderland, who are in the playoff final, and that's it. Everybody else I've watched over the course of this season and gone, it's the squad depth that's the difference between the two. And that's not a discredit to Burnley, because Burnley, I've thought, have built theirs on being defensively solid, and they're very open about the fact that they've spent money, unlike our cross-city rivals.
Yeah, had Smith's head have gone either side of Michael Cooper, anyway, well, not let's.
Josh Windass doesn't take an age to hit the ball. Like there's chances. Michael Ehekwa doesn't get stuck in cement. Like James Beale doesn't flap at the cross that comes in. Max Lowe doesn't get Shea Charles. There we go. I'll get there in the end. Shea Charles doesn't get a deflection on the cross that's got a cut back.
Yeah.
It's fine margins, isn't it? But again, I'm not going to be sour about it. If you've taken 6 points off us over the course of the season, fine. I got no problem. I'm not going to sit here and whinge.
Yeah, all I can say is if next week doesn't go according to plan for them, I'm sure those videos of him dancing on the tables will be coming back out.
Well, again, that is... I know, like every Wednesday fan's like, oh, fuck it, I hope they don't go up. I bet there is one man who is really hoping that they get, and it's not just because he's a Sheffield United fan, it's because of the amount of shit that he is going to have to put up with after 2 games of this. This was also the 27-minute rant about the historical significance of Carlos Carvalho, and I was watching that game in a boozer.
Bringing up stuff that's just irrelevant.
I will openly hold my hands up now. When's the game? Is it next Saturday, isn't it?
Yeah.
I am not fucking turning that on. I don't care what it is. There is no part of me that wants to watch that game of football. If it goes how I would hope it does, and Sunderland, I'll put it on for the trophy lift and the Chris Wilder sour interview after. There is no part of me that is going to sit there and watch that football match.
Yeah, that is a hate watch, that one. Actually, to be fair, it's not, because I think, nobody has a second team, certainly not a second team in the same league, but Sunderland are a team that I think deserve to be in the Premier League just for the stature. I know that doesn't count and stuff like that, but anyway, there's that
massive Wednesday Sunderland loving which existed before this one. It's you're a great club. No, you're a great club. No, you're a great club. From
you're massive. No, you're bigger.
You're massive. No, you're bigger. Stop it.
Anyway, we follow that up with a 1-1 draw with Cardiff. Now, it seems kind of innocuous, but I've picked it out because this is the full league debut for Piers Charles. Everyone was saying it, he needs to play. I must admit, I didn't think it was going to happen, but obviously it does. What, we're 7 games from the end of the season.
4 points off the playoffs at this point as well, James.
Yeah, I thought Beadle was in it for the long haul, but I was happy that Charles got his chance. And I was looking at the stats earlier, looking at the results. Didn't keep 1 clean sheet either, which I thought was quite surprising. I thought surely he must have got one somewhere, but he hadn't. But didn't keep one in this one. It was a 1-1 draw. Like I said, I picked it out purely because of Piers Charles' debut.
The only thing that I've got to add on it was this was the day that playoff dream ended. I know Chris Wilder tried to peddle that it was the week before. It wasn't the week before because we were only 4 points off it. This was the one where everybody in the week was talking up about the 7 cup finals left to go. We're going to need every single person there backing us for the full 90 minutes, blah, 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 blah. And then the chairman doesn't pay them the Friday before the most important game of the season. And the side travel down to Cardiff. Fans don't know about this at this point. The squad travels down to Cardiff. Uncertainty surrounding player wages, uncertainty surrounding coaching staff payments. And this is where it really becomes a long day at the office for Dejphon Chansiri, because on the Monday we find out that we haven't paid wages and that we are facing an embargo, a 3-window embargo. This was the game that if you needed things to go right and click, this was it. This was that one game. Because had we gone on to win this, results went our way on this day as well. We would have been 1 point outside the playoffs. And do you remember, James, me and you sat on here and were going, didn't look arsed in parts of that first half. Didn't look arsed. Like they were struggling. They looked lethargic. They looked this. And then on the Monday, we find out that they've not been paid.
And you're like, makes sense that. I mean, obviously we're probably never going to know whether that was a reason or wasn't or not. But so I think we made a triple sub as well, didn't we? At the at half time. Yeah, and changed it all up. But yeah, it was a very, very strange game as well. And you know what? As well, when you mention all that, it's no surprise that we go. There's another 6 games of the season. We go on to win 1 of those next 6. When you think about it, the way that it all panned out. Yep. We then have a 1-0 defeat at home to Hull, a game that when you looked at the results, or should I say the fixtures after that United game, it was Cardiff, Hull, Blackburn, Oxford, Stoke, then it's Borough, but then it's Pompey and Watford. I was looking at them and. Throughout the course of the season, obviously, as it gets to them, it's a little bit different. But when you look at them, you're thinking that's not a bad finish. That's not a bad running. You've played all the top teams. They're all, all right. I know Borough is probably the only other one that was a difficult game, but they were all kind of winnable ones. And losing it 1-0 to Hull was a bit of a sickener. And then we go to Blackburn. Now this one. we're saying not putting two 45-minute performances together.
Yeah.
Shock, we actually put a first half performance together because just like when we're talking about, I think it was the West Brom game.
Yeah.
Blackburn didn't lay a glove on us really in the first half.
Nope.
This was also kind of the joint protest. They had a lot of
Venky's out. It was sorry, not Venky's. It's to do with the chief exec who was there at the game. Can't remember his name.
Yeah, I think it's also aimed at the Venky's as well. To be honest, but yeah, we're 2-0 up, absolutely cruising, weren't we, Matt? And then the wheels well and truly just fell off in that second half.
Yeah, absolutely cruising. We were brilliant in the first half. Goals were really good, really well taken. I think there's a Jedi Gassama strike in here, which is a good goal. And then Pierce Charles flaps it across, which he should palm out. I think that's the second goal. I know we also talk about the Tyrese Dolan header at the near post. That is, again, if you go back and watch it, because now the emotion's gone and we all know how it plays out, go back and watch it. It's a hell of a header. It's a postage stamp header off the back of his head. It's an outrageous header because he's in front of the near post as well.
It is when you're about 4'7" as well, and winning a header. I think all these Christmases came at once with that corner. And do you know what as well? This is the game. Obviously, it ends 2-2. We do draw the game. This is the one where I think Blackburn then go on to win every game until the end of the season, bar the last game of the season, and obviously get within a whisker of getting into the playoffs.
Yeah. And
it was also, I think, their new gaffer, Valerian Ismail, had come in and he'd not won a game. I think he'd played 3-4 games, I want to say. Obviously, didn't win this one. It finished up a draw. But I suppose them coming back from 2-0 down was that catalyst that they kind of kicked on from it. And it was just, we've just lost to United. We then throw a 2-0 lead away. I think there was a lot, obviously there's the protests that are gathering pace and people are talking about them. I think obviously the Sheffield Wednesday Trust have now kind of got on board with things as well. There's only one other game I kind of want to talk about really until the season's done, innit? Really, the season's done and finished and over.
Yeah, this was also that period of time where the manager was coming out and making contradictory statements post every game in terms of he was coming out one week and saying, I'll never forget this group. They're amazing. He was layering that in from Cardiff, like, I'll never forget this group. This group of players have worked so hard for me. And everyone was thinking, hold up, 6 games left here and we're still within touching distance. But because of the messaging that came out post that Cardiff game, it was almost like not only players, but also fans kind of threw their hands up and was just like, oh, well, fuck it, whatever. It's done. Like, it's done. Which I think that, again, when you were going back to that kind of like first chink in the armour of the manager, I think this was where you've seen how much of an emotional toll this job has taken on our current manager. The last 18 months have weighed very, very heavily on this manager and he's shouldered it fantastically. But at this point in time, it was like, I really hoped for a fairy tale ending and this isn't happening now. And now it's just whatever. I mean,
another game that on paper we should be winning. The Oxford one at home, we lose that 1-0. And then we go into the kind of bank holiday weekend. I'm off in Germany getting absolutely shit-faced at this point. But I did watch the game in a bar. I got it on my phone. We were watching it legally, of course. Stoke City at the Bet365, and I've picked it out mainly because of the Pierce Charles. Well, it's not Pierce Charles' own goal, is it? He boots it straight at the lad, and it's only us that can really concede a goal like that. And to be fair, you don't see that anywhere else. Just on Sheffield Wednesday's own goals and gaffs DVD.
Yep, it's only us where that doesn't get given as a free kick as well. I will die on this hill, James. It's a free kick all day long. The player's looking at him. He knows full well what he's doing. He jumps up in front of him. If that happens on the edge of the box against the forward, it's a free kick all day long. It's a free kick. I'm not going to try and dress this up. This was our worst performance away from home all season. We were god awful in this game. We were absolutely terrible, deserved nothing. Stoke should have won this 4, 5, 6, 7, and none of us could have had any complaints. We were absolutely appalling. But again, had chances, hit the post, hit the bar, missed a one-on-one. We did not deserve anything out this game.
I mean, I think as well, again, not confirmed, but the rumours that a bit of unrest in the camp on the way home from that game, which, again, with how poor the performance was, kind of understandable, really. And I know we talked about this kind of on the pod at the time. Like, do you want to see that? Do you want to see? It shows emotion and stuff. but clearly things not right at all. I'm not going to talk about the other two. I know we beat Borough 2-1 at home, and then we draw with Pompey and we draw at Watford, and the season just absolutely fizzled out. And obviously it's a lot more to do with protests and stuff like that, and things off the pitch. I suppose just to wrap up, Matt, how would you kind of sum up the whole season? Because for me, it was just a lot of missed opportunities. Yeah. There were opportunities there to take all 3 points, whether that be on the pitch or missed opportunities in terms of injecting a bit of money into the squad. I know January's notoriously difficult, but had we have brought in a centre back and actually not been having to rely on, as much as they both did a fantastic job, Max Lowe and Michael Ehekwa, if we'd have got someone in there that's similar to Deshaun Bernard or something like that, or an experienced head from the Premier League or something, I just feel like we might not have, conceded some of the goals that we conceded. And I think that is the main problem this season. The main problem was the amount of goals that we conceded, and that's not laying any blame at the goalkeepers. It's just probably at the sheer inconsistency of the back three or back, or the two centre back pairings that we'd had.
I think that last bit is a really, really fair comment. It's defensively, which has let us down this year. It's been our Achilles heel all year. We've scored goals. We've scored, are we still the 5th or 6th highest goal scorers in the division over the course of the season? We have scored enough goals. Should we have scored more? Yes, but we have scored enough goals. We haven't been able to keep the ball out of the net all season consistently, and we didn't change that in those, Borough, Pompey and Watford. Couldn't keep the ball out of the net. Overall, again, I think big picture of it, because this second half, part 2 of the season, has been very, lots of heavy breathing and downcast and missed opportunity. Over the course of the season, it's a really positive season. Over the whole season, I think from where we started out, how poor it was in those first 6 games, and then kind of the turnaround, the run through Christmas, all the rest of it. A mid-table finish. Me and you sat here right at the start of the season and said, if you offered us a mid-table finish now, we would say that would be a good finish, and that would be a really, really positive season. The reason why I think it feels so heavy is because we know what's coming, in the sense of we know that there is no money. We know at this point in time, as me and you sit here on the 18th of May. Oh, by the way, everybody, happy 90+8 day. We are sat here now knowing there's going to be no money in the summer unless we make sales, which if you look at our track record, we don't do. We've got a one-to-way manager. We've got a coaching staff whose contracts are all up at the end of, is it this month or next?
Yep.
And you have basically taken it. How different a feel is this to 12 months ago?
I was just about to say that.
There going, it's perspective, isn't it? It's the perspective.
Because you're looking now, and the form in the last 6, we picked up just 6 points, 1 win, 3 draws, and you can actually extend that to the last 9 games and just 1 win in those. Obviously, the home form being appalling, that's where the vast majority of the fans go. That's where you get your season ticket for the home games. That obviously had a sour note. And also, I'm just looking now at last season. We finished the last 6, 4 wins and 2 draws, 14 points. Only Millwall picked up more points than us in that period right at the end of last season. And it's one of those where, because we had a better first half of the season and we just kind of tailed off in the second, had it have been the other way around, you almost think, I was far more positive finishing last season. You know, where did we finish? 20th.
Yeah,
I felt much more positive finishing 20th than I do finishing 12th. And it is almost like, you know, I think it's just because how it finished, and as you've mentioned as well, the fact that we know that we're in the position partly down to Danny Röhl, how he's got the most out of the players that he's got, and then if he's not here, who's going to kind of take that on? Who's going to take us further forward? And also, how many times this season have we said the squad just isn't good enough?
Yeah.
So then, which is fine. That you know, bring in better players then, and then you open the purse up and you go, yeah. what we're going to do? You know, when you're trying to assemble a League One squad with frees and loans, with the stature of the club that we are, it's fairly easy because people will come to Sheffield Wednesday because of the size of the club.
Yeah.
When you're trying to do that in the Championship and trying to assemble a squad with frees and loans, I know there's good ones out there, but you're going to have to spend some money on some players. You can't just look on all these. You know, you don't just every free transfer, every loan doesn't always work out. You know, Ibrahim Sissoko, Stuart Armstrong, Ryu Hatsuse. That's just three examples.
That's the point. Is the January transfer window is a microcosm of what I would expect the summer to be.
Yeah,
punts. Absolute punts and flyaways. And if you look at the age profile of all of those players, bar Ibrahim Sissoko and a player in Shea Charles who we already had on loan, they're all the wrong age. Like Stuart Armstrong, you do not want to be going out and signing players of that age unless you are reoffering them a contract like we are. You are going to have to put your hand in your pocket. The problem is the way in which that the owner is responding to fans at fans forums, the way in which that the owner is, believe it or not, responding to people on LinkedIn. It is just the same message. If you look at the messages that the club are putting out, it is just business as usual. It is completely ignoring this consistent and it's taken a long time to get here, let's be honest, but this massive groundswell of fan unrest towards this football club. And it's it's playing tone deaf to it. It's playing tone deaf to it. And you know, if the manager is not here next year, there is a highly... I will stick my neck out now with not knowing who the manager is going to be or anything to do with kind of like the playing squad or budget or anything like that. I'll stick my neck out now. If we finish fourth bottom next year, I would see that genuinely as that's a stable season because of how much unrest there is potentially on the table here. Because there is, it could be horrible. We have got massively reduced season ticket numbers from next year compared to what we have heard from all of the reporting that we've heard. We've got fans who are walk-up.
Just on that, you've only got a week left to secure your ticket, by the way, to secure your seat. Only a week left.
What's the price of them now currently? What was it? Average ticket is something like, the cheapest ticket in the ground is it what, 600?
I've not got it in.
I can't remember off the top of my head, but yeah, if you're wanting to sign yourself up for this, guys, you're talking. I think the average was like 650 or something like that. So yeah, if you are wanting to sign yourself up for it, yeah, please feel free to.
Just on that massive tangent, but what really, really frustrates me is on that fans forum, it was said that 95% of the season tickets are taken up on early bird, which begs the question, why the hell do we need 45 different phases? If everyone buys them on early bird, you have early bird, and then you have even if they just didn't put them on sale until now. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, just early bird for a month or whatever it is, I don't know. There's always questions about that anyway, but it was because all it's doing, all these tweets are just kind of fueling the fire, aren't they? Really, just stoking the fire, and I do feel really sorry for the people that are putting these tweets out and stuff because they're just trying to do their job, and I really hope that they've turned the notifications off because it can be about anything. Unless it's a good news story about like the under 21s or under 23s or something like that, but anything else to do with anything, and it's just straight up, they got just getting hammered constantly. Which I do want to say we need it's going to be the summer now, but obviously there's a lot of noise around loads of different things. Danny Rail, who the manager's going to be, but let's not let's not take his foot off the gas when it comes to the chairman. He shouldn't be getting away scot-free. I know it's going to be difficult over the summer. I know the trust might be arranging a few different things, so do keep abreast all of those. Let's wrap things up then. Massive thanks for everyone that's tuned in and listened, whether you've been watching it live or whether you've been listening back to the show as well. Do really appreciate it. As always, we are going to be talking about this bid that's supposedly gone in. An ITK over on Owls Talk, who apparently is never wrong, has said that there's a £100 million bid from some sort of American consortium. So we're going to be talking about that. If you want to listen to that or watch it, it is patreon.com/WTRD pod. We'll be going live on there in about 10 minutes or so. It is on YouTube, but the link will be over on there. It will be when I post it. So if you're looking now and you can't see it, just give me a minute and I'll put it up, and we'll be talking about that, and also what the trust have put out regarding the fans forum as well. So thank you very much, everyone. As always, we'll be back in 5 or 10 minutes. So we'll see you then. Cheers.